This is a DD deck made by Jacob Risley. So what you start with is the 3 base cards, which are DD Swole Slimes. Their effects are to fusion summon from your hand by sending it and one other monster to the graveyard. Its second effect is to special summon a DD monster from your hand. It goes perfectly paired with Necro Slimes, which I also run 3 of, which fusion summon from your graveyard by banishing it and another monster, a Necro Slime and a Swole Slime. And then I play 2 DD Performance, which help you change the levels to get out Xyz monsters, or Synchro monsters if needed. They can change everything except for themselves. And then you run 3 DD7 Keplars. Their effects are to, when you normal special summon it, you can either return a DD card to your hand, which is very situational, or add a Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand. I also play 3 Rebel King Leonidas, which help you negate any effect damage you can take from running this sort of deck. And also fodder for this next card, which is a Savant Thomas. I would love to run 3 of this card, but I do not happen to have them at this moment. He destroys your Pendulum Scale, a Leonidas for example, to special summon a level 8 monster from your deck with no, it's in defensive position and it's got no effects, but it's perfect for Xyz summoning into their level 8 Xyz monster. Also, your opponent takes half battle damage. So with that you would summon either this or another Thomas. This is a Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok, which has 2 effects. Its pendulum effect is if you special summon a DD monster, if you special summon a monster, except during the damage step, you can target a DD monster in your graveyard and special summon it, but your opponent takes half damage, of course. Also, you take 1000 damage in the next standby phase. Its main effect is to, if you normal special summon this card, you can target a triple D monster in your graveyard, special summon it, not a normal double D, which you cannot summon using this effect. But you can also tribute another DD monster, any DD monsters, to banish an opponent's monster, which is nice to clear the field. I run 3. I play 2 Battle Faders, which you can special summon these cards from your hand to negate a direct attack from another opponent. I run a Watchdog, which lets you discard a spell card to set a infinite spell card from your hand, from your deck. Sorry. And you can't special summon the turn you use this effect. And I also play a Flying Sea. I'd love to replace this with a Max Sea, but I do not have enough money. The Max Sea's effect is to, whenever an opponent special summons a monster this turn, you draw a card. So if you play against a deck that has lots of special summoning, you'll use that effect to gain heaps of cards to your hand. Then we move on to the spell cards, which Dark Contract with Gates. I play 3 of these, and they let you add a DD monster from your deck to your hand during your main phase. But during your standby phase, you take 1000 damage, which you run Leonidas to negate. And then I play 2 Dark Contracts with the Swamp King, which allow you to fusion summon using your hand and graveyard. You banish from grave, you send from hand to graveyard, and again you take 1000 damage during the standby phase, as long as you've got that card in the field. Forbidden Dark Contract with the Swamp King. You can special summon a triple D monster from your hand in defensive position. It's got no effect, perfect for getting your Xyz monsters out. And you can also, once per turn, you can fusion summon a Fiend type monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field, not with the graveyard that Dark Contract with the Swamp King does. But you take 2000 damage instead. Again, can be negated. Magical Contractor. What that does is it allows you to add something like a spare gate to your opponent's hand. They cannot use this card if they are not running DDs. And also, if they do activate it, they take 1000 damage each turn. You add a spell card to your opponent's hand, then add a level 7 or 8 Dark Monster, a Rebel King, or a Ragnarok, or a Savant Thomas to your hand. Thomas. Savant Thomas to your hand. You can add those 3 monsters from your deck to your hand. And then my next spell card is Reasoning, which is a perfect card for this deck type, which has many different levels. Your opponent declares a monster level, and I draw from your deck until you until you get a monster that you can normal summon set. So that's one of any level 8, 9, any level really, except for an effect that doesn't let you normal summon it. And then if your opponent declared that level, you destroy it. But if your opponent did not declare that level, you special summon it to your field, and the remaining cards you have to send to the graveyard. This card is limited to 1, only reason I run 1 for 1. Another limited card, you send a monster from your hand to the graveyard, and you summon a Kepler using their effect to get a Dark Contract out. I run a Soul Charge for getting destroyed monsters from my graveyard to the field, but I lose 1,000 life points for each one. Mystical Space Typhoon to destroy any annoying spell trap cards on the field. Foolish Burial. That you send either a Necro Slime or a Swell Slime to the graveyard to use their graveyard effects. Pot of Duality, pretty much you draw the top 3 cards of your deck. You add one of them and you must shuffle the rest into your deck, but you cannot special summon the turn. Defusion, in case one of your fusion monsters were to be destroyed, you can return it to the extra deck instead and summon 2 of your monsters to be used as fodder for later. Tsukumo Slash. This is a funny card. Pretty much, since you gain life points all the time from the Dark Contracts that you negate, if your monster, a fusion monster or any monster, gets attacked by, or you attack an opponent's monster who has a higher attack points than that monster, you gain life points equal to the difference between yours and your opponent. So if you've got maybe 3 turns of negating Dark Contracts, you gain a heap of attack points on your monster. Moving on to the trap cards. Dark Contract with the Witch. This is a Dark Contract trap card. You can send a Dark Contract or a DD card from your hand to the graveyard and destroy a card on the field. And also all your DD cards gain 1,000 attack points because they're all Fiend type monsters. And again, you take 1,000 damage. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention I run 3 of those. I play Forbidden Apocalypta, which is if you declare an extra deck type monster, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, 2 or more monsters like on your opponent's field or your field, you have to send all monsters of that type in play to the graveyard. So if your opponent is playing maybe a Synchro deck, you can activate this card, declare Synchros, and all their Synchro monsters are in the graveyard whilst your monsters are safe. I'd like to replace this with Quaking Mirror Forces, which Quaking Mirror Forces effect is if your opponent declares an attack, you flip all their monsters into face down defense position. Pendulum Reborn. An easy card to run that pretty much gets you one of your Pendulum cards out, like Savant Kepler or maybe a Oblivion King from your graveyard, one of these 3. It gets it back and you can use Kepler's effect again if need be, or you can use these guys in Xyz fodder. My last trap card is Time Space Trap Hole, which when your opponent special summons the monsters from their hand or extra deck, and you get to shuffle it into the deck, but you lose 1,000 life points for each one. So, example, if they Pendulum summon, you can shuffle them all. Instead of losing life points, you can gain it by destroying one of your Leonarduses, or special summoning it from your hand. Then we move on to the extra deck cards. This is the way you gain life points. I run 3 Oracle King DRs. Any effect that would inflict damage to you, you get that life points instead of taking that damage. Also a good attack point monster. Also level 7, good for seizing. I would like to run 3, is the hard name to say, Triple D Wave Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok. You use 2 Triple D monsters, and when it attacks an opponent's monster, you can return your Dark Contract, which really wouldn't affect you, or a DD monster, return it to your hand, and then